How's it going? Nice to see you again from a fresh afternoon on the Isle of Wight. Back for a beach talk. As always, thanks for joining me. Now, the Caledonian Challenge was one of the first endurance challenges in the UK. It was 54 miles the West Highland Way in 24 hours. And you would start in Fort William, make your way down the West Highland Way over through Glencoe, down to Loch Lomond. Amazing event, raised a lot of money for charity, and one of my overriding memories of the whole event was just the warmth and hospitality of the organisers and the stewards along the way. Now, we did it in 22 and a half hours, which we were quite impressed with and relieved to have completed. The guy who ran it the fastest did it in 8.5 hours. Just shows you there are some amazing people on this planet. And during one of the night stages, or the legs, the weather was really not favourable. Even though it was the middle of June, we had plenty of rain, plenty of wind, plenty of midges. And it was on one of the second last leg in the middle of the night. I just got a lot of water in one of my boots, and there really was nowhere to stop and deal with anything in the conditions. So we just decided we'd just keep going until we got to the next checkpoint, where we got to around 5 in the morning. And at that stage, I just felt what had started off as a bit of rubbing in my boot and the sole of my foot, or both feet, had actually become just a bit more than a blister and was feeling just a bit deeper under the skin. Anyway, so we patched up, changed the socks, and on the final leg, which is around, say, 10, 12 miles, yeah, the first 3-4 miles were fine, but the last 8 miles, it was really, I just knew this wasn't good. I just hadn't treated the blister as soon as I should have. And by the time we finished, I just knew that the journey home from back across to Edinburgh and all the way back down to London was just going to be a bit slow. Got back to King's Cross station, and whilst everyone gets off the train and races down the platform to the taxi queue or the tubes, I was walking so slowly that the guy running the taxi rank took pity on me and just asked me to come straight to the front. And I had a week of bandaged feet, walking so slowly across London, getting black taxis, and yeah, even when a taxi would pull in for you, it might take you 40-50 seconds to get to it. Few questions from every taxi driver on what was wrong with me. But I've learned from that. In fact, when I climbed mountains afterwards, it just became a classic case of if you get a niggle or any sort of rubbing, you just have to stop and deal with it. It is only going to get worse. And it's even something that I've carried into all my business life since, especially when you've got businesses where you've got high volume of transactions, repeat activity. In the finance space, we live with this all the time. It could be something that happens once a year, once a month, twice a month, every week, every day. I've got one client where you've got maybe tens of thousands of transactions every month. If there's any sort of rubbing, the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. And it just becomes a mild obsession for me and the business I work with that we always feel better. You know how it feels when you treat a foot, that if you do something about it, it puts your mind at rest. You know it's not going to develop into a blister. The same applies to your business. I'd be so curious in your business if you've had experience of this, where through automation or through other practices or improvements, you've identified a rub. It could be a transaction, could be automation, could be zero, could be an employee, in fairness, that's just rubbing you up the wrong way, but you deal with it on a timely basis and you see the relief as a result of doing something. Great to hear your comments and your experiences as always. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers for now.